Do any senators other than the patron wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 632? Seeing none, Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surovell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Okay, so first of all, I went back and looked at the study. They said the benefits of 100 megawatts or 1,000 megawatts is 20 to 58 million per year. So presumably you go to 2,700, you're talking about 50 million to 110 million of benefit. Just want to make sure that's clear. Number two, I heard coal ash mentioned. Subject near and dear to my heart. Folks, coal ash is pollution prevention. When you make electricity, it causes pollution. That means you got to pay for it, whether it's nuclear waste or mercury going up in the air or coal ash. That has to be paid no matter what. That's been a long-standing 70, 80-year tradition in this Commonwealth. What we agreed to do is to spend a little bit more on coal ash.
Will the Speaker yield for just one quick question?
Sure.
I will not try to trample on his closing.
You have the floor.
But my question is, did we allow the electric monopolies to profit on the coal ash when we increased the rates on electric ratepayers across Virginia that are captive?
Senator has the floor.
A little bit.
Thank you.
Well, no, man, but listen, we did what we did do is we said they could get the rate of return on the coal ash, but we also said that to the extent that they have to advance money that they're not able to recoup because we put a $50 million cap on it, they weren't allowed to get a time value of money or a rate of return on that money they fronted. So it's not, we didn't give them the full profit that we normally give on projects like that. We gave them a partial profit. So in any event, that's why I said a little. In any event, back to my point, coal ash is pollution control. That's something that's something that we have to do, just like nuclear waste and mercury, whatever. I heard buses mentioned. I confirmed earlier this morning that the energy storage created by the bus program will be counted towards this 2,700, because if you were in committee on Sunday, you heard that these buses, I think, are going to have maybe 300 megawatts or something like that of storage. That will count towards the 2,700. So the buses are included in this. I just want to make that point. But the last thing I want to say, the last couple points I want to make is this. You know, we heard the State Corporation Commission yesterday come to us and tell us that, you know, of all the things we're doing, it's going to cost like $20 a month or whatever it was. And nowhere in the State Corporation Commission's analysis did they talk about the cost of climate change or the cost of cancer or asthma or the fact that we're going to have malaria-ridden mosquitoes around here like in Costa Rica because we're going to have the climate of, you know, South America up here. I mean, the State Corporation Commission never looks at the full cost of anything. Take, for example, the undergrounding program. If you go read their opinion.
Will the gentleman yield for a question?
Sure, I'll yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Mr. President, can the gentleman show me in his bill where it talks about the decommissioning requirement for these batteries, how many landfills we're going to bury, and how we're going to put or deal with these batteries after they're done with their useful life?
Senator has the floor.
There's nothing in there about decommissioning of batteries. That's something, of course, the State Corporation Commission can take into account when they decide whether to approve it or not.
Mr. Chairman, would the gentleman yield for a further question?
Yeah, I'll yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Would you agree with me then that that's another unintended cost of this technology, is we don't have a way to decommission or do anything with these batteries other than landfill them?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I would say the gentleman doesn't quite fully understand the bill. As I pointed out yesterday in response to the senator from Chesapeake's question, there are probably about 10 or 15 different technologies that might be used, including molten salt and flywheels and a lot of other things. It's not just batteries we're talking about. It could be many different things, and as this market develops, we'll find out what it is and what the externalities are they have with them. But again, the State Corporation Commission has been playing this game for 20 years where we ask them to do something, and they take this little tiny myopic cost view of it to deny it. Take, for example, undergrounding, right? You read the undergrounding bill, all they talk about is it was $100,000 a house or something. Do they talk about what the cost is to like 50,000 people to have their power shut off for an extra 5 days? No, they don't talk about that. All they talk about is the cost that they can specifically determine so they can reject a project. And it's because of that kinds of gamesmanship and because that body has been interpreting the law to basically, you know, authorize, you know, not considering any kind of climate consequences whatsoever, we have to do this kind of stuff. And sooner or later, we have to start dealing with climate change. I mean, we heard these same arguments 10 years ago. Solar's too expensive. Solar doesn't work. Look at Solyndra. Blah, 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 right? What happened? North Carolina has way more solar than we do. We're playing catch up with the rest of the country because we've been making these same arguments for 10 years. You know what? That time is over. The time's over. We're going to deal with climate change. We're going to start paying for carbon. We're going to start actually considering the full costs of all this destruction on our society. And that's why we need to support this bill and stop making these same old tired arguments we've been hearing for 10 years about how climate change isn't something we need to deal with right now. It's time to act.
Question is, shall Senate Bill 632 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote? Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 20, noes 19.
Ayes 20, noes 19. Senate Bill 632 passes.
Senate Bill 7